Hi everyone, welcome to Chinwag Wednesdays. It's of course 7 o'clock on Wednesday, and I'm talking to a fantastic guest tonight. Unfortunately, last week I had to postpone the chat that I had booked in. Had a little bit of an accident, unfortunately. I am much better now. I'm on the road to recovery, so yeah, we had to put that one on hold. But service has resumed. I probably look a little bit dishevelled, but yeah. So tonight I'm talking to a chap called Bod, and he runs an amazing business called Vale House Kitchen. And I've had the absolute pleasure and honour of going to see Bod on one of his experience days, tutorial days, whatever you want to call it, one of his lessons. We went foraging and then made a load of food and of course ate it. And so I invited Bod on to talk more about what he's doing this year. And the idea of Chinwag Wednesdays is to talk to individuals and businesses to help promote them and what they're doing, but also just to have a bit of a chat. So I want to hear from country people, shooting people, fire cooking people, farmers, anything like that. It all fits in with the channel. And the idea is just to spread some good vibes, learn a little bit, have a laugh about stuff, talk about food, and ultimately, yeah, enjoy the hour or so that it goes on for. So let's try and get Bod in now. I'm going to invite him in. We can start the chat. With a little bit of luck, the tech will not fail. Bod, are you there?
I am.
There you go.
Hey, Alex, how are you?
I'm very well, thanks. And you?
Yeah, brilliant, brilliant. I'm up in the school actually.
Wonderful. I
I don't know
hoped
if
you
you
would
saw.
be.
I put some bacon and some trout into our cold smoker this morning. So I've just been up to check on them. The cold smoker's still going. So I'll probably
And
take them out first thing tomorrow morning.
when will you be delivering this to me?
Yeah,
Oh,
I'll
trout.
happily. I know. Yeah, I know you're. Well, I say slightly invalided. Is that the right
Well,
expression?
yeah, maybe incapacitated.
Yeah.
The thing,
Um,
I mean, I have held my hands up. It was completely self-inflicted. So,
what did you do? Or are we not allowed to ask?
well, I don't even know if I should say, but long story short, I was doing some filming
Nice.
in the back of the UTV.
Right.
And let's just say I went over the front of the UTV and landed on the floor.
Oh, okay.
But I accept full responsibility. Certainly no fault of theirs whatsoever.
Well, the things you have to do to get a good shot, hey?
Anyway, never mind.
Yeah.
Well, I gave you a little bit of an intro just as I was warming up there. I don't know if
Yeah.
you sort of saw it, but do you want to start again, Bod? Do you want to sort of introduce who
Yeah,
you are
sure. So,
and what Vale House Kitchen is?
yeah, so myself, Vale House Kitchen, we're a country skills and cookery school. We talk a lot about reconnecting people with food. So we're fairly unique. We run some fairly unique courses. So we teach people how to fish, forage, shoot. We run a lot of butchery courses, bread, preserves. So we like to sort of go back to the sort of old skills, if you like. And I actually really suffer terribly from imposter syndrome because I teach quite a few courses now, but I'm not a trained chef. But we've been open 13 years now, and I've had the real sort of honor and pleasure of spending a lot of time with some amazing tutors, some of which I know that you will have met on your travels. Um, and I've just sort of gleaned all sorts of information from them. Um, I was very lucky, really, that I met my wife, Annie. Oh, God, it's quite a few years ago now, 16 years ago. And before we lived here, I lived up in London. I worked in finance, and I'd sort of run to the end of that road, if you like. And I was quite lucky that I met Annie, and Annie was a bit like, you know what, you need a bit of a check. She was very instrumental in not necessarily giving me the push, but certainly giving me a bit of guidance on what I needed to do. So we moved to Vale House at the beginning of 2011, and the building that you've been to, where the cookery school is, was a bit of a sort of a ramshackly old garage sort of building.
Right.
And yeah, we decided to sort of take the old insides out and sort of plop a cookery school back in. So yeah,
Was
it's
it
been brilliant.
was it purpose built then? Like you knew that you were going to do this?
Not at all, no. When we first moved here, I had no idea that if you'd said to me 13 years ago that I'd be keeping pigs and teaching people how to skin and butcher deer, and I would have just laughed at you, I think. Although I have to admit, all of the things that we sort of do, we often joke that I've sort of turned my old hobbies into my job, because I've fished since I was about 4 and
Nice.
shot since I was probably, I don't know, early mid-teens. I've been sort of very much into, even when I lived in London, very much into field sports and country sports, and for picking slows and making sloe gin. My father was in the Air Force, and I went to boarding school not a million miles away from here, but I spent a lot of time with my grandmother growing up, and she was a proper Aunt Bessie. So we'd be making marmalade in January and chutney in the autumn, and she made all of her own bread and cakes and all of that stuff. And not that my mum's not a good cook, but they always say it sort of skips a generation. And I sort of got my love of food and cooking and using proper ingredients, if that makes sense. I
Yeah.
probably got that from my grandmother, and yeah, we've sort of taken it on, and now we show people how to do all sorts of incredible things with food, to be honest
Mate,
with
you're glowing. It's this is amazing. I know that you enjoy it, but
yeah.
it's just radiating from you at
No,
the
I mean,
moment.
I absolutely love what we do up here, and
Mm.
it's really. I mean, we're quite lucky. We have people that come from all over the world. Actually, we've got an amazing lady called Pam Corbin, Pam the Jam. If any of you are on Instagram, follow Pam the Jam. She is the all things preserving, and we had a marmalade course beginning of January, and we had 2 ladies come from Holland. We run sort of 3 courses a year with Jam. We do with Pam. We do a marmalade course, a summer preserves course, and then a sort of an autumn preserving course. And we have people come from everywhere. It's incredible. Yeah,
But you've got. I mean, I just jumped onto the website. Like you've got some really diverse, but also really simple stuff. I mean,
yeah.
whoever said I'm doing a marmalade course?
Yeah,
Like,
you know what? I mean, next time I see you, I will give you a jar of marmalade. I have
love it.
this January marmalade sort of for me has gone up another. So I've done maybe 4 or 5 like marmalade workshops for all sorts. For done one for the local WI. I did one for a group of ladies sort of near Oxford. I did one at Soho Farmhouse,
Wow.
teaching it. Yeah, I mean it's great. And I think, and this is something that you'll be well in tune with. I think people are a lot. I think there's been a real. People have strived in the last sort of 10 years to really get more connected with what they're doing.
I
So I
think
think,
so.
yeah, and I
Mm.
think people would old school skills.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
me, my grandmother always made, chutney, marmalade, jam. So to me, that's sort of quite normal. But to a lot of people, a bit like, well,
It's alien.
how do you make jam? And actually, it's sort of really, really simple. You need some fruit that have got pectin in it, and you need some sugar, and that's sort of it, and a big pot.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but I think there's been a real. I think we've been quite lucky that with a lot of our courses, people have wanted to learn sort of like old school skills. Like, I mean, I don't think you need to go back very far. Probably less than 50 years, and everyone would have some sort of preserving skills, some
Mm.
sort of. But people would be able to skin and butcher a rabbit. People would probably be able to make a loaf of bread, and now I think,
It's
just the
gone though,
way,
isn't it?
yeah, just the way society has changed, the way everything's changed. And I
Yeah.
think there's a bit more people reverting back to that. And I know, you reflect that in a lot of the things that you do. So,
Yeah, unfortunately, those skills, and sadly, I think a lot of interest is gone as well. But you are definitely right. It seems to be coming back.
definitely.
People seem to, I think with all the social media posts and influencers talking about ingredients and sourcing your food and all the health benefits. I mean, health
Yeah.
is a massive thing. The kids aren't necessarily going out drinking on a Friday night. They're going
Yeah,
to
most
pottery
definitely not.
classes and
Yeah, yeah,
gyms
yeah.
and things like that. So I think certainly from the health side of it, people seem to be way more interested in simple, just good food. And I've
Yeah.
always said the best food I've ever had is sometimes the simplest, but just done really, really well.
I think, I mean, actually, if you speak to a lot of chefs, and I've been really lucky to spend a lot of time with some brilliant chefs up here, they will always say the best meals, you need good, fresh ingredients.
Yeah,
So, for instance, if you've gone out and shot a deer in the morning, for instance, and
yeah,
then butchered it, and then you've got, a backstrap or a loin or whatever, simply fried in a pan with some butter and salt, spot on. It's the same, you go out and catch fish. One of the kickers, if you like, one of the things that really showed myself and Annie that we really wanted to do this. I fly fish a lot. I love fly fishing. I find it very meditative. It's my sort of
mm,
when I lived up in London, I would escape London quite regularly to go fly fishing, and I
right.
had quite a mad job back in the day, so it was quite nice to get away from that and stand, waist deep in a river casting, and time just sort of disappears when you're fishing.
Yeah.
It's a brilliant thing. But I've been fishing, I bought a trout back. We're really lucky, we've got a lovely little veg patch, and I know, I realize that we're very blessed in where we live, and that the access that we have to sort of a veg patch and all of that stuff, and I completely understand that not everyone has that. But I bought this trout back, we filleted it, cooked it on the barbie, we had some spuds out the garden, a bit of broccoli, a bit of so, and we had this amazing meal, and it was just delicious. And I think the way that you perceive flavor works on two levels. So, A, if you've got amazing ingredients, it's going to taste good. But also, if you've had a hand in those ingredients, somehow it's going to make the food taste better, even if it doesn't. That sounds a bit odd, I
No, no,
know.
no. You're
But
absolutely
but
right.
if you've it's a bit like, I know, Tom, eat the country foraging,
Yeah,
and we
I'm
do.
sure if he hasn't already, as soon as he saw I put the post up that we were doing it,
Yeah.
he said to say hello if he hasn't already. So
I need to see him in that. I was showing that I was sort of cold smoking a trout, and he was like, "Oh, I could do that in my van." I was like, "Yeah, 100% you can do this in your van."
I love
And he was
trout.
like,
I
"Oh, I
love
must
it
pop
so
over."
much.
And I was like, "Yeah, we'll do a little come over, we'll do a video." And actually, I've got the trout sort of still out, and the cold, you can't really see the cold smoke, it's behind me in the dark now.
Well,
But
if I may, I'd love to come over with Tom. Oh, you've moved. Oh God, have we lost him?
no,
Oh,
no,
you're
no, no,
back.
no, no. It's my little tripod that occasionally decides to just go on standby. So
Oh,
no,
right. Don't
yeah,
worry.
no
Well, yeah,
problem.
I'd love, because I don't get to see enough of Tom. And
No.
one of my resolutions, I rang him and I said I desperately want to do more things with Tom because he's just, him, he's
Oh no,
hilarious to
he's
be
yeah,
around.
he's a brilliant chap. And his knowledge. We're quite lucky. We run some foraging courses, not with Tom. We have a guy locally to us called Adrian
Yes, I met
Boots.
Adrian, didn't I?
Yeah, that, of
Yeah,
course,
yeah,
UK.
yeah.
Yeah.
Really top
So
guy.
Adrian is a sort of a landscape ecologist. So he knows a huge amount about wild food, but he also knows a huge amount about just the general landscape and
Do you know what? I found that fascinating, and
yeah,
I've tried to tell people about that experience so many times because yeah, he doesn't just look at the ground and tell you what's beneath your feet. He can look at the entire landscape
That's it.
and tell you about it. And it was so fascinating when he was talking.
Yeah.
Yeah, really top bloke to sort of have on board there.
I mean, he's amazing. So, but you know, there's lots of foragers up and
Yes.
down the length and breadth of the country, and you know, we're going into spring. I mean, I've already seen lots of posts of people picking wild garlic, and actually, I mean, I love wild garlic as much as the next man, but our wild garlic, I think, just from our sort of topography, I think we're slightly higher up than some places. So our wild garlic is always really, really late. And obviously, we've had this incredibly wet, not particularly cold, but
Yeah.
really wet winter. And I think a lot of the wild food is really, certainly around us, is really behind. Like even the nettles aren't up at the moment.
Right.
So, but yeah, I mean, we've got quite a few foraging courses coming up in April, and by April, hopefully the sun will have come out and hopefully things will have started to grow because
Yeah.
it's just been so wet.
But do you want to talk through some of the courses that
Oh
you've
God,
got
yeah.
on, like as in what people can expect? Because I mean, I don't know what it was called, but a
Yeah, you
foraging.
came on an introduction to that. So let me think, what have we got? So in the next month, we've
You've
got
got
quite a few vendors. We've
introduction
got
to
quite a few
smoking
vendors.
and curing.
Yeah, there's an introduction to smoking and curing that I teach where it's quite nice to be able to show people how to make a dry cure. We'll make bacon, as in sort of proper real bacon. And a lot of the sort of skills we teach certainly like hark back to a time where there wasn't refrigeration and you needed I mean, for instance, if I do this, I'm not sure you can see, we got salamis hanging up there.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of sort of cured food, as a species, we developed, well, sort of 10,000 plus years ago. And we needed to do that because you generally go from a time of plenty, certainly in the northern hemisphere. So, you know, you have in the summer, you get to autumn, you have this amazing harvest, and then you generally have a load of food that's going to go off. And so traditionally what we would do is you'd feed all this to your pig. So we domesticated pigs many thousands of years ago, and your pig would get nice and big and fat, and you would generally kill it at the beginning of winter, and you would make things like hams and bacon and
Right.
salamis. And those we
That's
talk a lot.
interesting. So you'd feed it up with the things that you know wouldn't
Was
keep.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, we
Right.
are. I
Interesting.
think
That makes sense.
we're 98% pig, or pig are 98%. So pigs can eat exactly what we can,
Right.
and you'll find that. I mean, we're quite lucky. We keep Oxford Sandy and Blacks, and if we're not using one of our own pigs in our courses, I know quite a few local people that keep sort of rare breed pigs, and you'll find that rare breed pigs generally are a lot fattier than commercial pigs. And the reason for that is, again, if we rewind like 6,000 to 7,000 years, you needed that fat. That fat is what would give you the energy over the winter with your few potatoes and beans that you'd managed to keep. You needed the fat to give you energy to survive throughout the cold months, and then you'd get through to spring and the whole process would start all over again. So going back to courses, so the introduction, smoking and curing, we hot smoke some mackerel generally, we make bacon, we make salamis, we cover hot and cold smoking. And I think a lot, I mean, there's a few little rules that you need to follow. And if you stick to those rules, I shouldn't say this, but it's a really simple process.
But often is. But what I was going to say, Bod, is I think people probably know that it's probably quite simple. A lot of things are quite simple, but
Yeah.
sometimes they just want someone to hold their hand
Yeah, definitely.
and give them that experience. You know, they want to do it with someone as
Yeah,
opposed to fudge it in the kitchen at home and
yeah.
probably get it wrong.
And well,
Um,
also, I think, I mean, personally, the way that I learn things, and we're quite lucky. If I do this, you can see the school.
I was
So the
hoping that
school is,
we'd get a bit of a tour.
yeah, the school is actually really small. So it's only, our maximum course size is 10.
Yeah.
More often than not, we only have 8. Um, because when people come here, we want them to get the most out of their day. that they can. And I think a lot of people, I mean, nowadays, and I certainly know this is something you're very big into, you know, people will watch a lot of stuff on YouTube and Instagram and TikTok and all of that stuff. And I think every now and again, and don't get me wrong, all of those platforms are incredible sources of information to learn things.
Yeah.
But every now and again, I think it's quite nice to come and do it like physically
Yeah.
with someone that knows what they're doing.
Watching something and doing something
Yeah.
are two different things.
Yeah. And I think people get a lot more out of it and learn a lot more. Certainly it's
Yeah.
the way that I learn is if you do it, and our courses are very hands-on. So
Yeah.
The course we've got after the smoking and curing course is our what we call our Venison Butchery and Cookery Day.
Yeah.
And there'll be a deer hanging up sort of where those salamis are.
I've seen it many a time.
The salamis won't be there as well. I will move them. And again, another good friend of yours, Matt Roberts, Grove Game Larder. I normally get a deer from him.
Yeah.
And we show everyone how to skin a deer in I say a basic way, quite an easy way. I mean, if Matt came here and watched how we'd skin a deer, he'd probably laugh because he probably skins a deer in about 2 seconds, where it normally takes us about 20 minutes. But, you know, you show someone how to skin a deer, and even that is quite interesting because when you've got a whole deer hanging up in the fur, often people come and it's a very conceptual thing because it obviously hasn't got a head on, it hasn't got its guts in it, but you know it looks like a deer, and
Yeah.
you don't and people are often a bit like, oh goodness, you know.
Well, it's shocking.
Well, it sort of is.
People aren't used to it, and I mean I'm used to it now, but it's interesting because when the fur's on, it's an animal, and then when it's off, it's a carcass,
really changes.
and it's food, isn't it? You
Yeah,
know,
and also, I mean, and I think innately, and often we'll have people that have never skinned anything in their life, and say someone's bought them the venison courses at present, and they come up and there's a whole deer hanging up, and they're a bit like, whoa. And somehow, I think innately, somewhere within is it the monkey bit of your brain? I think people just know, people are a bit like, oh, I sort of know how to do this. Yeah. And I think we inherently, because as a species, we've done it for, you know, probably hundreds of thousands of years. People are a bit like, oh, I sort of know what I'm doing. Even if
instincts will take over. Once
definitely.
You know the technique, I mean, ultimately, it's get that fur off and do it. There was a question just come up about whether the deer is wild or domesticated.
Always. Well, we always get wild deer. Although, having said that, I know that Matt does do some of the deer management. Is it at Ashton Court?
Yeah, I would assume though 9 times out of 10 it's gonna be wild.
Well, and actually that's a really interesting question because like wild deer almost come in a few sort of categories. So you get a truly wild deer. If you go out, you've stalked it, which I know you've done a lot, shot a deer that is just in a field in this wild environment, and then you get sort of parked deer. So we're quite near the pig near Bath is literally 5 minutes, and they've got you know, a big herd of fallow, and to all intents and purposes they're wild. They're there's a big fence around. I don't know how many acres the pig have got, but it's quite a few, and it's the same at Durham Park and places like this. And you'll have deer that are effectively wild, but they're parked, so they're sort of parked in an area. And you know, if you shoot one of those and eat one of those, there's not a huge amount of difference between eating one of those and eating, say, a roebuck that's been living completely.
I think you'd have to be pretty skilled to be able to tell the difference when eating. I'm sure someone somewhere will be able to. The keyboard warriors will be out, but
well, and then obviously you do, and I mean this happened. What I find, and venison's a really, really good subject. So you know, if you go to most supermarkets and you think, oh, I'm going to do a good thing here, I'm going to buy some venison. Most of the venison in supermarkets is farmed in New Zealand, which is just, to me, is just nuts. You know, we've got, I wouldn't necessarily say we've got a deer crisis in the UK, but certainly post-COVID, deer numbers have gone up dramatically. They think there's probably somewhere in the region of 2 million deer in the UK now. They're a huge agricultural pest. They're a huge problem with respect to people driving into them. You
Yeah.
know, quite a few people every year are killed by deer, generally in road traffic accidents.
Yeah.
And it's something that, you know, we should definitely be eating a lot more of. So you go to a supermarket thinking, oh, I'm going to buy some venison because I'm doing, and actually it's been farmed in New Zealand and flown halfway around the world, you know. Now I know they have started farming some deer up in Scotland. I don't know if you've encountered that on your travels up there.
I mean,
It, it's probably a
I
lot
know of some
further.
farms, but I didn't know if I didn't. I'm not aware of anything on any
Yeah,
mass
they do
scales.
they do farm some up. I'm not sure where, but some red deer are farmed in Scotland.
Right.
But the majority of venison that you're going to eat, if you're eating British venison, is going to be wild. It's going to be shot by a stalker. Actually, you're not allowed to call people stalkers anymore. It's deer managers, which to me I find quite. It conjures up an image of sort of lots of deer sitting at like little tables and someone sort of managing.
Hey, we could get into a whole debate about, are we hunters, are we deer managers, are we stalkers? You know,
Yeah, so
we could go on and on and on.
yeah.
But
But so going back to that, so we skin a deer. Once you've, as you were alluding to, once you've taken the skin off a deer, it sort of goes from looking like an animal to sort of a very big piece of meat, and then you only really need to make probably 3 or 4 cuts in it, and it goes from again looking like a big animal without its skin to sort of lumps of meat that you'd see in a butcher's shop.
yeah,
Um,
and
and
I find that people really light up when you start talking about, when you relate it to like a beef cut,
yeah,
and you're
yeah,
talking about the fillets
yeah.
and the
Or
tenderloin.
the haunch and all of that
Yeah,
sort of stuff. Yeah,
exactly. And people suddenly, they can place it. You know, they've seen
yes.
it on the animal, and all of a sudden, you know, logic kicks back in, and they can
Oh,
say, ah,
100%.
that's where it comes from.
And I mean, also, I mean, we eat a lot of game in this house anyway, just because both myself and Annie shoot. We go out game shooting, maybe not as much as we'd like, but we certainly do. And
Mhm.
then I do a bit of deer stalking, and we've also always got venison in the freezer. And it's just delicious. It's just a
Yeah,
delicious meat, and
absolutely.
I find it. I mean, I think game generally in this country is having a little bit of a resurgence. I think there's a lot more game getting eaten full stop now, and
Yeah.
certainly venison is becoming very popular. I think a few TV chefs have sort of had venison in various menus, and also if you're willing to put in a bit of what I mean, it's really quite inexpensive. You
It
can get
can be, yeah.
yeah,
I mean, two things that I always like pushing is, one, there's something called the I think it's called the Wild Venison Food Network, and
yeah,
that's where people can access venison, game dealers and things like that. But then also Facebook groups like Giving
yeah.
Up the Game,
Brilliant. Yeah, of course.
and you can get venison that is reasonable all the way to free sometimes.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean,
And not just venison, game as well. Some
yeah,
people are just happy to give it away.
yeah. We're actually, as a country, we're blessed really with the amount of game that we have. And I mean, so if you go into feathered game, you enter into an interesting debate about whether, if you shoot a pheasant, is that pheasant truly wild? Well, probably not, because it's been put there to be shot at. But I would much rather eat a pheasant that I've shot in the field than some poor chicken that's only been alive for sort of
I,
a month and a half
I
and never seen the
completely
light of
agree.
day.
Bod,
Um,
we've got another sort of question.
Go on.
So someone is asking what cuisine we're talking about. Looks like it's the first time they've um, heard of perhaps they haven't heard of eating deer. So just to confirm, we were talking about eating venison,
Yeah,
which is deer. We have talked about different game birds and things.
yeah,
But Jesse, if you're still watching, if you want to message myself or Bod about any of this afterwards, then feel
yeah.
free. But
No, please do.
we're talking about
Um,
wild food at the moment,
Well, yeah,
not.
wild and actually, wild food covers quite a large spectrum of food.
Yeah,
So, you've got foraging, you've got, deer, venison, you've got game, and I mean, game in general covers such a sheet. I mean, like rabbit, we run a game butchery cookery course from when the game season starts properly. So we have normally one in October, one in November, and one in December or January. And we always do rabbit, pheasant, partridge. And I feel a bit sorry for the old rabbit because, you know, we used to eat as a country, we used to eat a lot of rabbit. And then Mixie came along in the 1950s. And now, I mean, I don't know that many people that eat rabbit at all. Actually, I get our rabbits from Matt as well because he seems to have a lot of rabbits over him,
Right,
over
yeah.
his way.
Oh, well, if you had
And
any recently, then that may have come from my ground in Gloucester that we
oh,
went out
okay, yeah,
with.
yeah, yeah.
So I mean, I may even be able to provide some for you.
Brilliant. That's fantastic.
But
And I
yeah,
mean,
no, you are right. I mean, rabbit. So I had an interesting sort of debate about venison actually, but it sort of
yeah,
applies to rabbit. Sometimes you see these foods on a high-end restaurant, and I
yeah,
wonder whether, in a way, not through any fault of their own, I wonder whether they're fueling, this idea that venison is, is posh food
yeah. I
or
think,
high end, because it's not. But obviously, these amazing chefs, the way they put these dishes together,
yeah,
it does look high end quite often.
100%. And
Um,
I do, and that sort of almost, well, I wouldn't say necessarily worries me, but I do find it quite, like, so for instance, if you know, on a venison court, you can buy a whole deer in the fur for probably somewhere between 30 and 50 quid, depending on the time of year and
yeah,
what sort of deer it is and how big it is. Now, yeah, you're going to need to skin that and butcher that yourself, but you're probably going to end up with somewhere between 25 and 40 kilos. I mean, you're probably looking at a pound a kilo if you're willing to do that yourself,
yeah,
which is really cheap. And then if you go on to things like, pheasant and partridge, most certainly by like the end of November, most shoots will give you birds for free because they're almost, and
yeah,
again, this is sort of, I always think this is quite sad, but they're almost a byproduct of the shooting industry. And again, I think a lot more people are eating game now and taking game with them and this, that, and the other. But again, a lot of game is shot, and we used to export a lot to Europe. Now that doesn't happen sort of post Brexit and all of that sort of stuff. But if anyone is interested in learning about game, I'm more than happy to, people can ping me questions
yeah,
or,
and
yeah.
likewise. I mean, I say it over and over again. I had pheasant goujons
Oh, nice.
for the first time a little while ago,
Yeah.
but my God, what a game changer!
Yeah.
Forgive the
So
pun.
good.
I
So
mean,
good.
pheasant goujons. I mean, it just blows the socks off of chicken.
Oh, amazing. 100%.
Once you kind of make it dirty and you put in whatever mayo on it
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
other
Yeah.
bits and pieces, they are just incredible.
They really are.
And we did a pheasant doner kebab
Oh,
recently.
no. Okay. Oh, that sounds interesting.
That will be coming out. It was a success in the end, but let's just say the method wasn't quite on form, but the idea
Okay.
was sound.
Brilliant. Well,
So
I mean, it's
yes,
quite interesting. You can argue, I mean, going back to sort of the humble wrap, the three most ethical meats that you can eat in the UK are rabbit, deer, and pigeon.
right, yeah,
They're all plentiful. I mean, pigeon will have a lot more predator. Well, sort of deer don't really have any predators, really. I mean, the odd golden eagle would probably take a small one up in Scotland, but the deer's only predator probably is us. And then, rabbits and pigeons, okay, they've got quite a few predators, but there's so many of them that if you eat sort of, don't, oh, I mean, I love pigeon. I don't know if you're a
yeah.
pigeon
No, I
fan or
do.
not.
Little pigeon breast breakfast. Whoa.
Yeah, oh, it's just wonderful. And, you're sort of doing everyone a favor. You're doing the farmer a favor. You're doing nature a bit of a favor. Um, you're also actually bizarrely doing the species a favor, because if you've got something that doesn't get predated enough, there's two. I mean, a bit like deer at the moment.
Yeah,
Eventually population gets out of control, and then you end up with populations getting sick and all of that sort of stuff. So,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, we've got another comment from David, just talking about, sadly, it looks like he used to be a beater, and
Okay.
and apparently 90% of the birds were put in a hole in the ground.
Yeah.
Um,
I think I that definitely used to happen. I think that happens a lot less nowadays. I think shoots are a lot more engaged with the environment and what
yeah.
they're doing than they used to be. I mean, yeah, definitely. I'm sure back in the day that would happen, but I don't think. I certainly don't think that. Certainly, the shoots that I shoot on locally around
Mm.
here, I know all of their birds get used up. So
And do you know what? I wanted to make a point of that, because the one that I did recently in
yeah,
Warwickshire, 100% of it goes into the catering kitchen,
yeah,
which then goes out to like things like the game fair when they're doing events and
yeah, yeah,
things.
yeah, yeah,
So everything, and so I can get behind that.
yeah, hundred
Um,
percent.
a fantastic day. I've never really properly been on the beating end, so loved the beaters day.
Brilliant.
And then I spent it with the guns as well, and it really is a fantastic day, like really
It
fantastic.
really is. And also I think, and I know that game shooting is quite evocative. People can get quite angry about it and stuff, but I think what people don't see is how it's a whole community thing. I mean, we shoot. There's a shoot up the road in Tunley, run by this brilliant bloke called Martin, and he's got these old boys out beating who are all in their sort of 80s, and yes, I guess it's a commercial shoot, but it's not a big commercial shoot. But you've got the beaters, you've got the pickers up, you've got the
Yeah,
guns. All of their birds go to various sort of restaurants and places around here.
yeah,
That I think you can really get behind, and I think there's a huge amount of community behind
massive,
shooting. That
massive.
if you didn't know anything about shooting, you don't really know that and get to see that.
Yeah, yeah, that's funny enough. So the next film that's coming out, the main theme is Beaters Day,
Oh,
mixed with
amazing.
a lot of different things in between. But one of the things, there's old, there's young, there's
Yeah,
boys, there's girls, there's
yeah,
dogs.
yeah. It's
As
brilliant.
you'd said, a whole community of people, all
Yeah.
working together. I love seeing the dogs working. I
Oh, it's brilliant.
absolutely
It's
love it.
really amazing.
They're
Yeah.
just doing what they should be doing, what they're happiest doing. It's just brilliant the way it
Oh
all
no, it
comes
really
together.
is a
Um,
1,000%. And yeah, I mean, a game is definitely something we should probably all be. I mean, probably not yourself and myself because I eat tons of game. Actually, we had a sort of. We've got so much pheasant and partridge in the freezer at the moment. I
excellent.
keep on, yeah, it's brilliant. So I keep on making sort of a lot of like pheasant noodles,
Oh, right. Okay.
yeah, and sort of a bit like a bit like a sort of a Chinese style soup, if you like, with
Mm.
and it's so good, so good.
Well, I did. I don't know if you've tried it yet. I did the Chinese. What did I do? What did I do? Oh, I can't think. Crispy chili venison,
Oh, amazing!
and oh wow,
Yeah, I bet.
what a dish that was! Absolutely fantastic. Let's get that into the takeaways.
Oh God, no, 100%, most definitely,
But
most
again,
definitely.
really easy. But again, what I like is the fact that when you do go out and shoot and you take a deer, it can feed so many. I mean, quite often I end up giving something to someone,
Yeah.
albeit a neighbour or someone at work or something like that. But I get a lot of pleasure from that, and people try it and they really like it.
Oh, I mean, certainly, and also as we go through spring, I mean, nature's really good at combining things at the right time of year.
Yep.
So um, I know that in the certainly probably the venison course towards the end of March when the wild garlic's up, what you can do, we always make venison sausages, we always make venison salamis, but in the venison sausages, if you go and pick wild garlic, you can put wild garlic through your sausage mix, and generally we will put garlic in it, but wild garlic in a venison sausage is an absolute game changer. It's so good.
Mm,
And then as you get towards the sort of autumn time and you've got all the blackberries and all of that stuff,
yeah.
you can make the most incredible simple blackberry sauce, which also goes amazingly with venison.
And I always say, and the deer come along and eat the
Of course.
brambles, and so
Yeah.
they go hand in hand. So it's a
Yeah.
nice little story to
No,
tell.
really good.
It's the wild larder, albeit plants or animals. I mean, it is so varied, but yet we seem so fixated on cows, chickens,
Yeah,
pigs,
yeah, yeah. I mean,
and
actually, sort
lamb.
of, yeah, pigs and chickens really get the sort of arse end of the intensification of agriculture.
Yeah,
And I think the main reason for that is we domesticated both of them a really long time ago, and we've developed systems that it's really easy to mass produce uh, either chicken meat or pork really cheaply. And what I the real problem that I have with all of that is that the bird or pig or animal almost sort of gets forgotten. It almost just becomes a commodity. It sort of ceases to be a living
yeah.
thing, and it just becomes well, just becomes something that has a monetary value, which is terrible, really. I mean, I understand that if you've got a global population of 8 billion people and you want to feed them all, there's a really interesting podcast called Fed, which by Chris Van Tulleken, who's the famous TV doctor, and
Mm,
it sort of focuses on chickens. And he was a bit like, he's got three young daughters, they eat lots of chicken, so he decides to get some chickens
right.
and sort of see what it's all about. But at the same time, he goes and visits I mean, the chicken industry in this country. Do you know? So here's a question for you, and you may well know the answers. Do you know how many industrially reared chickens we
Oh
breed in this country? Yeah,
God, George asks me that from Nentmet Pastures all the time, and I can never remember. Go on.
Well, the caveat is that we import about the same number again from
Wow.
places in the world that have very questionable food hygiene. So the answer is, in this country, we breed about 1 billion chickens, give or take, and we import about another 800 million. So as a country,
Wow.
we eat not far off 2 billion chickens a year, most of which, I mean, the height. So George's chickens are in the sort of last 1%. I mean,
Yeah.
they are the creme de la creme of chickens.
Yeah.
98% of them are, big warehouses, never seen the light of day. They all got killed at somewhere between 35 and 42 days,
Yeah.
mainly because we've sort of bred Franken chickens, so their muscular structure develops quicker than their skeletal structure, and by the time they get to that age, they can't really stand up because their muscles are too big for their bones. So you
Yeah.
sort of have to kill them then, which is not. But it's a bit shocking, really.
But the
And also,
flavour's just not there, is it? Compared
no,
to a bird that's been allowed to walk and roam and scratch and live a little bit longer.
yeah. I
That's
mean,
that's the main thing.
if you're the most unlucky pheasant and you get shot on the 1st of October, on the first day of the season, you've still been alive for probably 4 or 5 months. And, that is so much longer. That's probably at least 4 times longer than
Yeah.
an industrially reared chicken. A friend of mine pointed out that if you go into a supermarket and buy the cheapest whole chicken, it will cost you about the same as a cup of coffee in Costa. Now, that tells you
Wrong, isn't
something.
it?
Yeah, well, you've got to sit and think, well, hang on a second. If I'm buying a whole chicken for sort of £4, and my coffee at Costa, actually, a coffee at Costa is probably more than £4 nowadays. It just goes to show what's happened to that chicken for it to be is probably not good.
Yeah. We just got another question. Where can I get
Okay.
George's chickens? If you have a little look on Instagram under Nempnet Pastures, you'll be able to find his page, and then or you can just Google the
I mean,
website.
George's chickens are amazing.
Yeah.
I
Oh, they're
mean,
beautiful. He fair play. George came round on Saturday. I lose track of the days now.
it's
And
because you've been holed up.
he knew it would cheer me up, and he brought round a bag of wings,
Amazing.
and we just sat there and devoured them, which
Yeah.
was which
I
was
mean,
great.
I have to say, their chicken is so good.
Stunning, isn't
Um,
it? But
oh,
something he sort of made me do, so something I'm doing anyways, I'm trying to basically, if I've got bones, I'm boiling them up to try
yeah,
and make my own stock and
yeah,
reduce it down. And I've always
1000%.
said, oh, I should do that, but this year I'm like, no, I am doing it.
Yeah,
So I've got a few different things, and I never thought to do it with the wings, with the bones of the
yeah,
wings.
yeah,
And he
yeah.
said, no, do it, and we did it.
Oh, it makes
And
amazing stock.
the most amazing stock came off
Yeah,
of it. I mean, the
yeah,
color, the yellow color,
yeah.
is just incredible, and the flavor. We put it into a risotto, and
Oh my
it's
God,
like,
that would have been incredible.
oh God, honestly, so good. And again, free, because technically
Yeah,
it was a
yeah.
waste product at
Yeah,
that
yeah,
point.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I always have lots of stock in the freezer. I mean, both game and if we ever have roast chicken, always make stock. To be honest with you, if I make stock, it generally gets used up quite quickly. Like sometimes that week we'll have soup, and
Yeah.
I'll always just use that stock. I
Yeah, but
mean,
that's great. But all these, I mean, you said it right at the beginning. All these things that we used to do,
yeah,
we've just stopped doing. And
yeah,
I think a large amount is convenience. I think a large amount is people do lead busy lives. You know, they
yeah,
come home from a long shift doing whatever, and it is tiring to do that extra
yeah. It
thing.
is. It is.
And it's easy to reach into the cupboard and grab a packet of whatever
Yeah,
and
thousand
not
percent.
care about what's in it. But
No.
again, you said it right at the beginning. When you know what's in it and you've had a hand in it,
Yeah,
it does taste better.
it
Contrary
really
to
does.
that, I always say that when someone else makes you a meal, it tastes
It
10
always tastes
times better
better.
anyway when you've had
That
nothing to
is
do with
true.
it.
Yeah, that is true. But I mean, I think it really does. And, I think coming back to sort of what we do here, um,
Oh, yeah.
well, I think that there's certainly a big groundswell of people wanting to learn more about where their food comes from, um, and from an economics point of view. And obviously I realize that I've got a bloody great big butcher's block here, so for
Nice.
me to chop up half a pig, it's not that difficult.
Yeah.
And I realize that, but if you're willing to invest a little bit of time and learn a few little butchery skills, and you can go and buy, you don't have to go and buy half a pig, you can buy a middle of a pig or front shoulder or whatever. If you're willing to do a bit of butchery yourself, you'll save yourself quite a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
I'm not trying to put butchers out of business. Mark at Tunley Farm Butchers, who I used to do a bit of work for, and they now run quite a few butchers shops in and around Bath. They're brilliant. But if you're willing to sort of do it yourself, you are going to save yourself a little bit of money.
I'm determined to do a lamb this year.
Oh, amazing.
I'm assuming that it's very similar to a deer,
Uh,
um,
it's
but with
almost
slightly different
identical.
cuts.
Yeah, well, it depends how you want to butcher it. It's almost identical, other than sheep. Well, lambs or sheep are a lot sturdier. So, for instance, the shoulders. If you're butchering a deer, you can almost just sort of cut the shoulder off, and it's just sort of stuck on with Velcro
Yeah.
almost. Um, Lambs are the same, but because they've got so much more fat on them, they just feel a lot sort of
Oh, right. Okay.
chunkier. Yeah. So I mean, you could butcher a lamb and a deer. If you had a lamb carcass and a deer carcass next to each other, they would look pretty similar. Other
Yeah.
than generally, the lamb would have more fat on it and probably be a bit stockier than a
Yeah.
deer, which would be a bit lean. But oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
People should just, if anyone's watching, people should just give stuff a go. Don't be
Oh yeah.
afraid.
No, definitely.
And then, if someone has a go and then they want to sort of perhaps tune their skills. They can come in and see you and do a course in whatever and
Yeah.
then expand it. Is it fair to say that your courses tend to be make it, cook it, eat it type
Yeah,
thing? Yeah,
definitely. So I would say all of our courses are very hands-on. All of certainly, if we look at our butchery courses, whether it be game, which is obviously sort of three smaller things, or whether it's a pig butchery. Actually, we're going to have a lamb butchery course later this year, so I'll let you know when it is,
oh
and we'll get you
brilliant,
to come
yeah,
along.
yeah, I'd love
Um,
to.
but yeah, they're all hands on. We show people how to, get to the sort of cut. So people are saying, well, where's a lamb chop come from? And
Yeah,
you're like, well, it's sort of there, And actually, when you're doing it and you sit and it's a bit like, so pork belly turns into streaky bacon. Oh, I can see that. Oh, and the loin is pork chops or back bacon. And
that's
as you're
right.
butchering stuff, it sort of becomes obvious. You can see it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely something worth. If you are a big meat eater and you've got a bit of time on your hands, it's definitely something worth
Well, we're
investing your
getting
time in.
into well, I say barbecue season. I
Oh, we
mean,
are. Well, we are. Well, isn't
anytime.
every day barbecue season for you, Alex?
Do you know what? There was a time I used to say yes to that, but when it is cold and
And
it's
raining.
wet and
Yeah.
it's windy, no, it is not barbecue season. It is time to stay in season and
Yeah.
wait for the decent weather. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was cooking the other day and it was raining, but yeah. I mean, who doesn't love cooking in the warm weather and the
Well,
sunshine and
again, I mean, we don't do a huge course. Like actually, we always run at least one barbecue course a year. We have an amazing chef called Kieran. He's the executive chef at Wellington School. He's brilliant. He teaches a few of our courses, but we always do a barbecue course. But I know that, for instance, you host a lot of sort of cooking over fire experiences,
yeah, yeah.
which I always think cooking. There's something wonderful about cooking over fire, and I know that. You certainly teach people how to do that.
It's just a flavour that you just and an experience that you just don't get from indoor cooking.
No, you don't.
It's
Um,
just completely different. We have had another question.
Go on.
I'd love to know if this has happened. Have you had anyone come to one of the days and had to walk out because that they can't handle what they're seeing? Has that happened?
I will tell you an honest answer to that. We had a pig butchery course. This is a fair few years ago, and we had a chap turn up that I think had quite a big night the night before.
Oh right.
And another thing that we haven't covered, that we also certainly on our pig butchery courses is offal, which I know is a real game, like room divider.
That's that's
But
that's another category, isn't
it
it?
really is, and I don't mind. I'm quite keen on offal. Certainly, when you get your pigs back, you get what's called the pluck, which is the sort of heart, liver, lungs, the spleen. The kidney is always in sort of on the only bit of offal that remains on the carcass. And I love a bit of devil's kidneys. And if you've got fresh liver is amazing. But anyway, going back to your question, this chap turned up. He was sort of okay. He was quite hungover, but doing all right. And then we got the offal out, and offal is a very sort of guttural thing. I know that you will have
I know
seen.
where this is going.
Yeah, and he literally, the colour
Just
changed,
went white, did he?
and he sort of said, "Oh, I need to go," and then yeah, he just left.
Oh dear.
He didn't. Yeah, he sort of said, "Oh, I need to take a bit of time out," and I went to sort of go and check on him, and he'd gone. So yeah, but generally, I
It,
would say
it happens though, doesn't it?
it does.
We just did some filming last week, and one of the girls who was helping with the filming, it was her first time experiencing a deer stalk,
Right.
and it was quite challenging. I
It's
mean,
quite.
fair play, she got through it,
Yeah.
but my God, that must have made her think, and she was quite brave to keep going when something like that was so alien,
It's
so
quite. I mean,
alien.
it's quite a thing. They always say. I mean, and I've I've been deer stalking for many years, and they often say when you get the animal in the crosshairs, one of two things: people can either pull the trigger and kill it, or people suddenly have this. I can't do that, which I
Yeah.
completely understand. I mean, even if you shoot a small deer, say you shoot, a Roe doe, a Roe deer, they're sort of, the biggest of the smallest deer, if that
I
makes
mean, to
sense.
me, a life is a life,
Yeah, of
you know.
course. And
So
a lot. I know that one of our tutors here, he went out on a deer stalking experience. They did all of their, practiced on the targets and all of that, and he was pretty good at that. And he thought, oh
yeah.
yeah, okay, this is something I get. Got out in the field, got in the high chair, deer came out, and he just said, "Sorry, I just can't. I can't do it." And and I fully understand that. And
I'm
that,
okay with that. I'd much rather be with someone who cares.
yeah,
And maybe that person will do it again after they've
yeah,
thought about it, desensitized, all that.
yeah.
But I like people who care.
Oh,
Um,
1,000%.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean yeah, it's quite a, as you say, it's quite a thing. You're taking something's life.
yeah,
Um, and I remember a while back they were doing a big thing about the Faroe Islands. They sort of slaughter whales at certain times of year, and
yeah.
people get, and it's quite an evocative thing. And I remember watching this guy saying, "Well, you know." Our abattoir is open to everyone, so you can criticize us, but they again, this harks back. They've done it for thousands of years. All of the, well, and I know, I understand that whales are quite endangered, and but they do it in a very certain way, and they only do it for a
Mm.
very small amount of time, and
I've heard this argument,
and
and
it's
I've
certainly
heard
something that's
many
very
others.
traditional to them. And I'm quite lucky. Well, I say lucky. When we take our pigs to the abattoir, every time you take an animal to an abattoir, it's not it it sort of tugs on the old heartstrings. And I think the day you go and it doesn't is the day you stop doing it. But our local abattoir over at Langford, I know Aled, who runs the abattoir there, and I've been through with our pigs a few times, and it's not for the faint-hearted, and
No, I can imagine.
it certainly isn't something that I'd probably want to do every day. But I've seen it, and they do it really well. They're a small abattoir. There's huge amounts of animal welfare, all of that stuff. But going back to this guy from the fair, I sort of get it. If everyone that ate meat had to go to an abattoir to see what happens first, there's probably a lot of people that maybe wouldn't.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, I mean,
definitely.
we're getting on to slightly evocative subjects, so I should probably move away from that.
We definitely went off piece there. Well, look,
Always.
to be honest, I could probably go forever on all this, but we're
Yeah,
sort of running out of time.
amazing.
But just to summarize, if anyone's interested, make sure I mean, I'll put the links in after the video, but Vale House Kitchen,
Yeah.
everyone. Loads of courses. Again, I've been scrolling through them, so have a little look to see what Body's offering this year. I've been on one of your courses, so I can personally say that they are absolutely excellent.
Oh, that's very kind. Thank
You've
you.
got a real passion for storytelling, which is what I think people buy into.
Oh, thank you.
And even if somehow no one learnt anything from you, you'd feed them really, really well and go home. Oh, I just remember I was glowing, absolutely glowing.
Yeah,
And that was the wild garlic stuff that we
that's
had.
right. That's right.
And it was a really, really good day. So yeah, my advice to anyone: book yourself in for a course.
Oh, Alex, this has been such a
But
thank you for having me on.
I'd love to come on over. I'm on the edge at the moment of buying a fancy new camera.
Oh, nice.
And I would just love some practice on
Oh, God,
stuff.
we'll definitely
So
get you
I'd
over.
love to come over and do something either on a course or just with you one on one or something,
Brilliant.
and we'll do that. But yeah, thanks very much for putting the time aside, Bod.
Oh no, Alex, thank you so much for having me on. It's been such a privilege, such a pleasure.
I'll message you afterwards, and then we'll try and arrange something.
100%.
If you want to shoot off now, I'll wrap up, and
Okay.
then we'll talk again soon. All
All
right.
right, brilliant. Cheers,
Awesome.
Alex.
Cheers, Bod.
Bye.
Yeah, you probably gathered that Bod is an absolutely top bloke. I went there too long ago, unfortunately. There is a little video on YouTube of the day. It was themed around wild garlic, so we went out and foraged some wild garlic. I remember we had scones or scones, and then some soup. We made some wild garlic bread, and it was just fantastic. And Adrian, who works with him, top bloke, really knowledgeable. So please head over to the website. It's valehouse.kitchen.co.uk. I will put that link in the description. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed tonight. I'm really keen on finding more people like Bod. I'm desperately trying to think who I've got in next week now. I do this every single week. And I always forget. Oh, I've got Suze. So Suzanne from Chumu's is coming on next week. Suzanne actually used to be one of my neighbours years and years ago, and she has set up Chumu's Ice Cream. You may or may not know of them. They're up on Dundry Hill in Bristol, and she's got a lovely story to tell about how she set the business up and how well she's doing now. And the ice cream is just fantastic. So in terms of tonight, thank you again to Bod and Vale House Kitchen, everyone that helps with that business. It's a phenomenal thing to get involved with. If you've watched and you want to get involved, then just drop me a message. Either just DM on Instagram, or the email is alex@huntergatherercooking.com. So whether you're an individual and you've just got a food or country passion, or whether you are a business and you just want to talk about what you believe in and what you're doing, I am all ears. I'm a little bit booked up for the next sort of probably 6-7 weeks. I normally run in advance, but let's get you booked in for a Wednesday. It's always at 7 o'clock. And I thoroughly enjoy it. Thank you very much for all the comments, as usual. If I've missed anything, I'm really sorry. Just drop me a DM. I'll come back to you. But again, just to reiterate, we talked about George's Chickens. That's Nempnet Pastures. And we reference Matt from Grove Game. He's the game dealer, good friend of mine. Yeah, he provides the deer over to Bod. So any other questions, let me know. It's been a thoroughly enjoyable evening, and I'll see you soon. See you next week, 7 o'clock, Chinwag Wednesdays, every Wednesday. Ta-ra.